Good morning, my creative friends. I thought I would come on with you today and show you a card that I recently made. And actually, if you came to the January workshops, you made this card, so it should look familiar to you. Let me remind you of a couple things before we get started. First, we do have a brand new mini catalog that's good from January through June with many, many beautiful new items in it. And if you don't have a catalog and you'd like to have one, just let me know and I would be happy to send you one. Also, during the months of January and February, a-bration is happening. And so that means that when you order $50 or more in product, you get to choose free papers and free stamp sets. And the stamp set and paper that we are going to be using today is in the a-bration brochure, so you can earn this for free. It's called the Friendly Hello stamp set and the Friendly Hello Designer Series paper. So let me just bring that up so you can get a better look at the paper. Really pretty, very much like spring, I think. And there's the stamp set. So that's what we're going to be using today. Just a minute, let me adjust my light here so we have a little bit better light. Okay. Now, so this is the card we're going to make. We're actually going to make it in a different color scheme, but let's get started. You know, I always like to do stamping first because if I'm going to mess up, it's going to be in the stamping. And that way I can fix it before I start putting everything together. So, as I said, this is the stamp set we're using, Hello Friend. And we're going to be using this bird stamp and a couple of the other ones. We're going to make this a birthday card today. So we'll use the stamp that says, hope you have the best birthday. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to stamp my bird on a piece of white cardstock. I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo black ink. So first I want to ink up my stamp. And let me take a look. We need a little bit more ink here. My black ink pad needs to be re-inked, so it's a little weak. There we go. All right, so just going to go straight down here and hold for a moment. And then lift up. And we have our beautiful image with our birds and flowers. I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to go ahead and stamp the inside of our card. And for that, I have another piece of white cardstock. And this piece is 4.5 inches by 5.25 inches. All right, so I'm going to use 2 stamps for that. I'm going to stamp some flowers down in the corner, and I'm using the fresh Freesia ink. And I'm going to kind of stamp off the edge here. So you see I have my scrap paper. And there it is. Pretty, huh? Hi, Muriel. I see that you're on with me today. It's nice to see you on Facebook. All right, the other thing I want to do is to stamp the happy birthday sentiment. So again, I'm going to use my black ink. And I think I'm just going to do that on an angle right up here in the corner. And there we go. Hope you have the best birthday. So that will go inside our card. I'm going to set that aside for just a minute. All right, so you remember that we stamped the bird image. And now I'm going to color that with our Stampin' Blends markers And so you don't have to sit here and watch me color for a really long time. I went ahead and started coloring this image. I used, for the back of the bird here, the Crumb Cake Light and Dark Stampin' Blends. The blends come in a set of 2, a light and a dark. And for the breast of the bird, I am going to use Petal Pink. So first, I'm just going to use the light Petal Pink. Also, these markers have a bullet tip on one end, and then they also have a brush tip on the other end, depending on how big the image is, what kind of stroke you want to use. So I'm just going to use the bullet tip here, and I am going to color in the bird's chest there. Now, these blends are so nice. They call them blends because they blend beautifully. So, you know, sometimes you'll use a marker and it kind of leaves lines behind where you were coloring, and it really disrupts the image. So these blends, now I'm using the darker one just to give a little bit of shadow. These blends really do blend together, and they don't leave any of those lines that you get with some other markers. Now I'm going to use the Grainy Apple Green, and I'm going to use the light one because these leaves are stamped in black. So I don't want to use a really dark marker here because I think that it might not show up so well. So just coloring in with the Grainy Apple Green. And another thing about these pens is they just take a really light stroke. You should barely touch them to the paper, and the ink transfers very nicely. Okay. Leaves are done. Now, let's do the flowers. And today I'm using Fresh Freesia. This is the same ink that I used on the ink pad to stamp the flowers on the inside. And first, I am going to use the light Fresh Freesia. And I'm not being super careful here. I just want the color to kind of be loose inside the image, so I'm not being really super careful about actually going exactly to the lines. I tend to like something almost more, just more casual in the coloring and not quite so precise. Now I'm going to pick up the dark, and I'm going to color in the centers of the flowers, and then I'm actually going to use the dark, and I'm just going to try to come across some of these black lines that the stamp provided, and it just gives a little bit more texture and a little dimension to the flower so it doesn't look so flat. There we go. So our coloring is done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a die, and I'm going to cut out this image, and I'll get a perfect circle. So let me get my Stampin' die cut machine over here, and we'll do that. So I'm going to put my cardstock on here with the image, and then I'm just going to lay my die on top. Then a layer to hold it in place. And then I'm just going to feed it through here and watch the magic. And there we have it. Our image is cut out in a really nice circle. All right, the other thing I did was I used this die. It's also a circle, but it has a little bit of a scallop around the edge. So I used this die to cut out a piece of black cardstock. And we are gonna layer these together. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna use my multi-purpose glue. And if you use this glue, you know it's very strong. You see, I didn't put big globs of glue on there. It just takes a little bit. And then I'm going to layer this on. And when I'm layering like this, instead of pushing it down on this side, I like to turn it over and then rub it to make sure it's adhered well, just in case I have some ink or some glue or something on my hands. I don't want to mess up my image. So I like to turn it over and do that. Okay, let's start putting our card together. Here I have a piece of black cardstock. It's 9 3/4 by 4 1/4. And I went ahead and scored this already at 4 1/4. And so now I'm just going to fold it over. Putting a score mark in there first allows you to fold it much easier. And then I'm using my bone folder to get a really crisp burnish on that edge there. So remember this is the inside of our card. So we're going to glue it right in here. Again, it's important not to get big blobs of glue because if it makes it so wet that it can cause your card to buckle because it makes the cardstock so wet. And now I have another piece of that designer series paper, and it is 4 inches by 1 1/4 inches. Look how pretty it is on the other side. That's the thing about the Stampin' Up paper. It's always two-sided, and sometimes it's hard to decide which side to put the glue on and which side to expose. Paper is always really beautiful. All right, so I just put that right on top of the white layer there. And the reason why is when I close my card, you can see this. All right, we need something here. So let's use another piece of the designer series paper in that package. And I'm gonna use this one. I love that color. Again, the opposite side is pretty too, but we're going with the fresh Freesia side today. This piece of designer series paper is 4 inches by 4 inches, so it is square. And I'm just gonna turn this over, make sure all that is adhered down well. Okay, now we need to put our little bird on the front. So I am going to use dimensionals. They are like a little foam, so it lifts up whatever you're putting them on and gives your project dimension. So just peeling off a few of these. I love dimensionals. I think they give the cards a lot of character. Okay, and now I'm just gonna take the adhesive backing off, off of each of these. Today I'm using black dimensionals. I usually use white, but because I'm using black cardstock, I thought it was a good time to use some black dimensionals. Okay, going to center that. How cute is that? I love it. All right, now the last thing I'm gonna do is, you guys know I love bling, so I'm gonna jazz it up just a little bit with some of these matte black dots. And I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. That makes it easier for me. These are self-adhesive, so I'm just gonna get underneath that one, and I think I'll put it right here. And I'm gonna get a smaller one, and let's put it right there, and one more. And we'll put it right here. This adds a little bit of interest to the card. Okay, we did it. There it is. Hope you had the best birthday. I love this card. I think it's very springy, and I think anybody would be happy to receive it. So let me see here. I'll show you again the card I showed you at the beginning. So it's just a little different. It's using the same stamp set and paper from that same pack, but a different paper from that pack. This one, hope you have the best birthday, and I used a different stamp from that same set down here in the corner in black. So there you go. There's the cards for today. Remember that this is available as a free gift during celebration. That's January and February of 2022. If you don't have a catalog and you'd like to have one, just let me know. I'd be happy to send you one of our mini catalogs. And the last thing I just wanted to let you know is if you'd like to shop online, you can go to my website at cheryldorsey.stampinup.net. And if you do place an order, when you're checking out, if you would please use the January host code, you see it there, AQZCGVMZ. And I think that's it for today. So thank you for watching. And I will invite you also to check out my YouTube channel. I post these videos there as well. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will be seeing you again soon. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.